No.
Or my sunshine.
Does it matter?
Yeah, or this land is my land. Yeah. It works. I've carried this. I've carried this with me for about 2 years, and this is the first time I thought, like, what? How can I get people's attention? And it worked. And look at you. See more of this.
It was the
Yeah, I was
dancing.
dancing. Yeah, that's right. And it's immortalized on video. Thank you, Robert. So welcome everybody. Really glad you can join us here. This is welcome to Estero. If you've never been here before, I'm sure many of you have. But my name is Javier De Leon. I'm the park superintendent here at Estero. And you know, there's a lot of things that make this park very special. The staff, our volunteers, and part of that magic formula is our friends group. Our friends group is not really talked about too much. We hope to change that in the next year, hopefully. What is a friends group? Our friends group is a support group for the park. It's a special group of folks, and you can be a friends group member if you like. Special group of folks that kind of help grease the wheels to get things done. There's a lot of rules that we have for state parks. There's a lot of neat things that we can do through our rules, but there's a lot of neater things we can do if we can skip the rules. No. There's a lot of neat things that we can do with the help of friends groups. Friends groups, they've helped us get grant funds. If you visited our bird line, that was a grant that was given to the friends group. They held the money until we were ready to go forward and put up a bird line. Right now we have about $11,000 for a couple of projects that the friends group is hanging on to while we get ready for these things. On top of that, the friends group, our annual big Halloween event, Spooky Science Fest. That's October 21st of this year. Last year we had 1,692 people that attended that event. You can imagine at night, almost 2,000 people around this pond. Lots of activities, lots of fun. 50 to 70 volunteers. But on that night, the friends group collects the entrance fees, and it's a big fundraiser to allow us to do this. This year we're very lucky. We had friends group volunteers that allowed us to do that. So if it wasn't for the friends group, the event probably wouldn't have been as good. They sponsor our fish tank, our live fish tank, and when an Eagle Scout wanted to donate archery equipment, the friends group helped out with that. So before I hand it off to our friends group president, this is their annual membership meeting, so these are in the back. These are membership forms. If you'd like to become a member, we can just have them in the back if people want to. If you'd like to become a member, what we want to do this year, what I want to do with the friends group, we want to have special friends group programs, so only members of the friends group can be invited to these things. So, like perhaps like a sunrise tour, where we're here very early, and it's a higher chance of seeing some of the cool animals, or a friends only night, where we take you all and maybe visit some places that we don't usually visit. Okay, so I know you all came for the Gator talk, mostly, so I'm going to stop talking. The friends group has some business to do. One last thing I'll say, if you want to become a member, great. If you would really like to help out with the friends group more directly, the friends group is always looking for board members. If you want to become the president of the friends group, I'd rather you guys become board members first. I know some people are overachievers, but okay, I'm going to hand it off to Paula and let you guys do the business stuff.
I'm going to try to make this very, very brief. I did want to mention one thing on this Friend of Estero. It's got Javier helped design it, and it has a bunch of friends quick facts of some of the things that the Friends group has done over the years that have helped to support the park on one side, and on the other side, and again, these are all back there by the Bobcat. It has also a place here where if you don't want to join as an actual friend, as an And I don't know if Joanne over there, she indicated that she would be willing to be vice president. So I don't know if anybody would want to second that. You'll second that, Karen? So let's vote on our vice president. All in favor, who's here? The rest of y'all who are here just for the Gator talk, you don't have to vote, okay? This is just a board, some little, we'll count you in there, but on the side. But anyway, let me have a vote for the vice president for Joanne Friedman. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Looks like that carried. Okay, so we now have a vice president. Let that be noted. Is there any discussion with regard to our president, treasurer? I don't know if I can do this as president or not, but I'd like to basically just, motion that we keep all of the officers the same at this time, unless there's somebody who wants to volunteer. Barbara, would you be willing to be secretary? Would you be willing to be a secretary for us this year?
Not to put you on the
Think
spot.
about it. Not to put you on the spot. We need a secretary, and I got it right now, so.
Not to put you on the
That's
spot.
nice, thanks, Robert. Thanks for videotaping.
And it's getting
No,
video.
you can think about it if you want, we'll go back to president. I just wanted to throw that out there in the question.
I'll do it.
She said yes.
She said yes.
Say it again.
Wait, we're gonna take it.
Okay, Karen just made a motion. Karen just
She
made
said yes.
You said you would do it, yay, okay. So let's go on to that. Can I have a second? Okay, Joanne, you can't do it until you're actually on the board. So not yet. You will be after this, I guess. But we voted, I guess we voted you in, so I guess you can. But we just voted you in. Okay, sorry. Okay, so all in favor of secretary for Barbara?
Aye.
Aye. Barbara, are you in favor of yourself being secretary?
No.
Take it till you make it. All right, so that carries. And then Karen just made a motion that we keep all of the current officers, such as president, myself, and treasurer, the same. So that's her motion. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Robert is seconding that motion that we keep the current board members, officers the same. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, so we've just finished our officer election. We'll discuss our next meeting. I don't know if you want to discuss that at the end.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss that at the end. So now we need to go on to the next item of business. And the purpose of being a friend, you already kind of covered that. So, and there are membership applications available back there. So without further ado, our presentation by Jacob Grande. And I put Gators of the RGB, but I guess he put Alligators of the RGB. So it's more or less más o menos, it's about the same thing. And one more thing, we did vote, and we are going to be presenting a check to you all. And I don't know if I can say for $300. Wow. Towards the Gator rescue. From the Friends group, and we'll be writing you out the check before. Wow. Our treasurer at the end.
Well, good afternoon. Before we get the Gator man Jake out here, I just wanted to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about the Birding and Nature Center. My name is Kristen Inholm, and I'm the executive director, and I've been there since 2013. We used to have a wild alligator, maybe not as big as yours, but his name was Banker, and he was a resident of South Padre Island, I was told, for 20 plus years. I never believed it till I got the job there, because I've lived there since 1993. But Banker, we've heard stories now that he was being fed, but he would stroll up. If any of you have been to our Birding and Nature Center, we have the boardwalks that go over the wetlands, and they come right up to our back deck. Banker would come up and bank and sun all day long, and he would be like, oh, that's fake, and we're like, no, it's not, and then he would move his mouth or something. But anyway, Banker one day, about 2018, decided to stroll down the bay, and he ended up going on the wrong person's dock. He went on a city council member's dock and banked. And so the city had heard rumors that we were getting lots of alligators reproducing. So we did have every year alligators on the back of them all one day, the assistant city manager called me up, and I was in tears afterwards. I had to shut my door, and I was like, we can't let this out. We've got to keep this private, because there's a lot of people that love this alligator, and they care for him, and this is going to be like a really bad thing if it gets out. Because they said we called up a nuisance gator person in Beaumont, Texas, and they're coming tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and you don't have a choice in the matter. Well, I was devastated. So like I said, I was crying, I shut my door, I was like, oh my gosh, I called my husband, and he's been my boyfriend, I'm like, what can I do? He's like, you can't do anything, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, it was hush-hush until, it was just hush-hush, you know, the alligators are gone. And people would say, how come we don't see the alligator? I'm like, oh, we didn't really lie, but we were just like, he's just not around. But anyway, so we started doing gator talks. And we started taking a survey, a room like this, if people would come. We do 3 talks a day, 11, 1:30, and 3:30. And we created a gator talk, and we started doing a survey. How many people came to the birding center just to hear gator talk? Well, at a room of 55, it would be like more than half. So I was like, wow, we're onto something here. So we had just finished our Winter Outdoor Wildlife Expo. Jonathan Wood, he has the Raptor Project, he brings the birds. I had asked him to come during the summertime. It would be fun for a one-day show for the summer visitors. He couldn't travel with those birds because of the heat down to South Texas. So I Googled one day at lunch, traveling gator show, and came across Gator Country in Beaumont, Texas. So I submitted my email, they called me the next day, they said it was going to be $6,000 for a show. I was like, okay, well, I don't have any money, but I'll raise it. And they're like, you're going to raise the money? I'm like, sure, I can raise the money. And I'm thinking, how am I going to raise $6,000? I'm like, can we schedule this in like 3 months? I'm pretty confident I can raise $6,000. Well, you know, they're really a great, Gary and Shannon Sarge of Gator Country in Beaumont, Texas, they are overachiever thinkers, and they really do a lot of thinking and put things together and create little programs and stuff. Well, they came down. You know, we talked about where we were going to do the show in our parking lot, and I had to give dimensions and, you know, the rules about being, you know, so far from the people from an alligator. So I thought they were coming to the parking lot to check it out. Well, that weekend I was going to be out of town, so they came, and then they texted me, can you talk Sunday night? So we had a phone conversation, and they requested, they told me their proposal. They said they Google mapped us and saw our ponds. They said their gator, their ponds were, they have a lot of alligators, and they think that it would be, you know, a good situation if we were to open up our ponds and help them out and become the second alligator sanctuary. So of course I said, put something together, I'll get the board of directors involved. So the board of directors got involved and they went for it. So May 10th, Mother's Day weekend of 2019, we became an alligator sanctuary. And there was, you know, some pushback because they thought there was rumors that I exported the alligators to import alligators and, you know, all kinds of crazy stuff. So then I went public about what the city did to me. I was like, I didn't do anything to those alligators, you know, I was forced. And long story short, 3 years later, we went through a few employees. We have, you know, we basically pay an exhibit fee. We have a partnership with Gator Country. We are the second alligator sanctuary in the state of Texas. So we do gator rescues, like what Jake's going to talk about. The only problem is that about 2 years ago, we got our nuisance alligator permit so that we could come out legally. And we trained and we work with Texas Parks and Wildlife with that. They're the ones that issue the permits. And they just don't issue it to anyone. You can't just say, hey, I want to do it. So because of our connection also with Gator Country and all the training, Tiffany is a member here of our Birding and Nature Center, and she's a Texas Master Naturalist going through the class right now. She's gone up there and gone through training. We've all gone through a lot of training. Of course, we're not as experienced as Gator Jake over here. I would think you were a little surprised at how well we did for being amateurs. But never thought that I would jump on an alligator or get excited to, you know, go after a 10.5-foot alligator or the 7-foot alligator that was found swimming in the Gulf of Mexico. But that excites me. So we have a lot of fun with it because we also know we're doing, you know, something good. And it's a good cause. So forgot where I was going with that because I got all excited talking about all that. out here and help. The problem, here's where I was going. The problem is that we can only take alligators under 6 foot, and we can't take very many. So back when we were first opening, Texas Parks and Wildlife said they shot about 25 alligators every year in the lower Rio Grande Valley because, you know, them being in the wrong spot. So if we do have a case where there is a larger alligator, we will work it out to get it transported to Beaumont. So far we haven't had to really have that issue. There's been a few, but we've been able to work with Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they've let us relocate them to Laguna Atascosa. But anyway, September 1st, Jake came to work with us. We love him. He's Gator Jake. He has a great personality. He was so thankful that Javier called. And we saw pictures. I talked to you on the phone, and it took us a couple days to get out here with, it being the weekend and stuff. But Jake came out here, and I was blown away when I saw the pictures of Jake on the kayak with a broomstick. But anyway, Jake, come on up here, take it over, show us, teach us. Thank you.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
This is the Alligator Show, y'all. What you got? How's everybody doing? There. Whoops, let me go back. All right, welcome to Estero. I am. True professional man. We got problems already. Look at us go. All right. So, thank you so much for going out or coming out to see this. I have a tendency of being extremely overpassionate about the animals that I care about. So deeply for, and I'm sure you will get that impression before we're finished here. So for y'all inviting me out, thank you so much for that. The opportunity to share this passion with the community is so important to me. So just want to say thank y'all to everyone really quick. So as Kristen said, I am Jake. I worked with Gator Country for several years, and then they managed me to go live on an island.
Talk to you.
Most people don't like that one too much. What we're going to do, I'm going to take a little bit of your time. We're going to talk about alligators. So hopefully teach you some stuff you may not have known before about these amazing and unbelievably misunderstood animals. So to start us off, I like to kind of touch on the seasonal patterns that we see alligators go through. We know they tend to get this bad rap. They're these Hollywood monsters. They're out to get you. They just eat everything they can. And that is not true. As a matter of fact, through the winter time, alligators do not eat. So typically speaking, from November through about March, they go into a state of brumation. So similar to hibernation, like you might be familiar with in mammals, they kind of go into low power mode for the winter. During that time of year, they completely shut off their metabolisms. So if they were to ingest anything, that can potentially just sit in their gut and rot and make them very sick. During the coldest times of the year, they are capable of dropping their heart rate as low as 2 to 4 beats per minute. It's incredibly low. We make the joke that they let their bodies die over winter. It's not far from the truth. A couple ways that they cope with that. One is by digging themselves a den. So alligators dig like moles, and a lot of people don't realize that. So one of their methods of overwintering, yes, that is my boot right there. This picture was taken in Louisiana, actually. We had a serious drought, and we were out there trying to get some more water into our ponds, and I found this big old den. That was dug by an alligator. And you can see here the largest alligator den that I have heard of was from the entrance to the very back of the den, about 45 foot straight into the bank. Yeah, I believe they said there are about 7 or 8 alligators in there, adults. So yeah, they dig like moles. They will go through some serious measures in order to dig these dens. You can see here they will tear out tree roots. There's accounts of them grabbing roots that are 5-inch diameter and snapping them like a twig so hard that it'll shake the tree 15 yards away. You can actually see on this little root there that's clearly been chewed by an alligator. He decided it wasn't in the way, so he left that one be. But yeah, they dig expansive dens. Now, if they can't dig these dens or they don't have time to do that, no worries whatsoever. They'll just let themselves freeze. So option 2 is they just sit in the water, stick their nose out there, and allow the ice to freeze around their face. That does 2 things for them. So it obviously gives them a snorkel so they can breathe, but also that ice will hold them in position so they don't even need to expend the energy required to keep themselves afloat. If you want to see a really cool example of that, you can go on YouTube, go to Gator Country TX, that real nasty freeze we had, 2 years ago? Their entire pond froze over. It looks like there's a bunch of little hockey pucks out there. Little gator nuts fucking through. So They have winter figured out, which is also why you do not see crocodiles anywhere in the US except for the very southern tip of Florida. They cannot handle the cold, and that is all it comes down to. Alligators, however, are quite clearly the most cold-tolerant crocodilian species on the planet, so they do all right. Oh, where am I going with this? Okay, so after that weather starts warming up, they are very hungry from having not eaten that entire time, and they go straight into the next stage in their life, and that is the mating season. No kids here today, don't gotta explain that one. Good deal. What that means for people like us over at the Birding Center means every single spring morning, we roll on in there, we are greeted to the sound of our resident 12.5-foot alligator, Big Padre, bellowing his heart out. If you don't know what that means, the big bull males will elevate their heads and their tails out of the water, like so. They do what we call a water dance, which has nothing to do with their sick dance moves. They don't have any. It has everything to do with the effect that they have on the water around them. They produce a pitch that is so low and so loud, it makes it look like it's raining above their backs. This alligator is not thrashing around. He is not splashing. That is a result of that bellow and that bellow alone. So it's a very powerful sound, a very cool thing to witness. Now, if you can't put two and two together, the idea behind that bellow is that is supposed to attract the girls, which has never worked for me. But that's for. Now, the sad truth of the matter is, in the alligator world, the men call the shots. I grew up with 4 older sisters. I know that does not apply anywhere else. But here, that's how that works. So, the big male alligator goes up to a little female, puts on his whole performance, and she decides she doesn't want anything to do with him. There's a small chance he may just go ahead and kill her. Welcome to the alligator world, but don't let me lose you. The females have a couple of very big checks over the males. First of which, especially if that is a smaller male approaching that female, they may engage in what we call a surfboarding behavior. Now, if that is to take place, the female that you see here will crawl on top of the male and try and sink him. If she is successful and he can't keep himself afloat, better luck next time. Y'all remember that the next time you're at the pool. Now, the bigger check comes during the next stage in their life when they are building their nests. So, mother alligators put a lot of attention into building these nests. Your average nest out in the wild is going to be about 7 feet wide at the base, about 3 feet tall. So, alligators and all crocodilians, similar to sea turtles, if you're familiar with that, have temperature-dependent sexual determination, which basically means the temperature the eggs are incubated at is going to determine whether they are male or female. Now, alligators build their nests out of rotting vegetation. So as that material breaks down and decays, that's an exothermic reaction, produces heat, and keeps those eggs warm. So by choosing more woody or more herbaceous plant materials to build her nest, that will control the rate of decay, and in turn, the temperature of the eggs. So eggs that are kept below about 87 degrees will have all females, and above 93 degrees, you will have all males. So what I'm telling y'all is, in the alligator world, men are hotter. Make the most of that one, guys. That's all you're going to get. I'm trying to throw you guys a bone. Alright, so those eggs will sit in that nest for about 63 days, and then you're going to start seeing your first little baby dragons. Alright, we're an interactive show here now. Y'all got to humor me a little bit. How many teeth does a baby alligator have fresh out the egg? None. That is by far my most popular answer. A mouthful, safe answer. Go ahead. 40. We're getting warmer. They actually come out with a full set plus 1, and that means 81 teeth. Wow. Now, adult alligators will have at or around 80 teeth in their mouth. It is rare that you'll find one with that exact number because they are constantly losing them and constantly regenerating them. As a matter of fact, through the lifespan of one individual alligator, they can go through as many as 3,000 teeth. It's a whole lot of visits from the tooth fairy, and it doesn't pay very well to be an orthodontist in the alligator world. So, as I said, mother alligators are exceptional parents. So when she first starts hearing her babies come out and start squeaking, right, she'll go up to that nest, she'll uncover that top layer, give them easy access to the world. She'll go as far as picking up any eggs that are having trouble, gently rolling them around to help them crack out. Then she will gather all of her offspring in her mouth and carry them to the water, where she will viciously protect them for the next 6 to 9 months. If you see Dad hanging out around the nest, he's not trying to support his family. He's looking for one thing and one thing only, and that is an easy meal. So they do cannibalize. We have what we, as a matter of fact, the biggest predator of a baby alligator is a bigger alligator. Oh, sorry, I had to throw those in there. That's kind of cute. So we have what we call a 2-foot rule. That basically means that a 6-foot alligator can easily take down a 4-foot alligator. An 8-footer can kill any 6-footer, so on and so forth. So when they first emerge from these eggs, they're only about 7 to 9 inches long. So as you can imagine, they got some problems to deal with. But lucky for them, in addition to mom stuff, they have some cool features, as all alligators do, to help them, yeah, there's a little fight for you, to help them survive to adulthood. So we're going to walk through a couple of those here. As a matter of fact, I think it's about time we take our little guest out. Come on. All right. So, next question for everybody. How many eyelids does an alligator have?
3.
Oh my God, y'all reading my notes or something, huh? I wasn't tricking anyone with that one. Alright, so they do have 3 eyelids. So the first one is just like yours or mine. It'll come from the bottom up. It'll beam the lens, wink at the girls, do what they gotta do. Sorry. I make myself laugh sometimes. The second one is what kind of looks like their eyebrow. So that goes over the top of the eye. That is called a tarsus. It is a bony eyelid. Sorry, buddy. And they will actually push the eyeball completely into the skull, covering it with that little bony plate to help protect their eyes when they are grabbing a particularly large prey item or fighting with another alligator. For the third and final set, I'm going to do my best to try and let y'all see, but it is called a nictitating membrane. And you'll notice, come on, it runs sideways across the eye there. It is clear, and it functions, quite obviously, as a built-in set of goggles. Help them see a little bit better under the water. Now, even though they have built-in goggles, they cannot see particularly well when the water is as murky and muddy as it is in much of their habitat. They have another pretty cool feature to help them navigate, and this one's a little creepy. But as I'm going to walk around again, y'all pay attention to their bottom jaws, and you're going to see they're covered in a whole bunch of little black polka dots. They did not forget to shave this morning. Those are functional organs, and they serve the purpose primarily of detecting vibration. The reason that I say it's a little creepy is because they are extremely sensitive. I like to trick everyone at our birding center and say the minute your vehicles rolled into this parking lot, every gator in our facility knew you arrived. Every step you take on that path around Alligator Lake, they know exactly where you're at. They don't need to see you. Y'all seen the movie Tremors? Cool, gotta throw that one out there. A coworker of mine over at Gator Country, Louisiana, he had a broken muffler for a while. Know anyone else see where this is going? That's a lot of vibrations, y'all. Very low vibrations too, right? Not unlike a bellow. When he rolled into that parking lot the first day, gators felt those vibrations. 150 of those males thought that was a big male challenging them. Every alligator in the park started bellowing. Very loud morning. Where am I going with that? Alright. So moving along here, let's talk about this bite force. That's a very common question I get as well. So, even at this size, they can put a pretty powerful punch, but the bite force of an alligator is on par with some of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom. As a matter of fact, there are only 2 creatures that have been measured so far, to be fair, that have a more powerful bite than the American alligator, and that is the saltwater crocodile and the Nile crocodile. So, while even a Padre-sized gator, like you see here, that's my big puppy, it only takes about 11 pounds of pressure to hold his jaws shut. I say a toddler can do it. They make up for it coming the other direction. You know, the full bite down force is about 3,000 pounds per square inch. If you think about your average 4-door sedan is about 3,200 pounds. Imagine having a car dropped on your hand. You're starting to get into that ballpark. I can tell you from experience, being that close to him, when he snaps down, he has made my ears ring before with the force of that bite. Anyone want to come over to the birding center Yeah, I don't get many volunteers for that one. Alright. So moving along here, let's take a look at their backs real quick. And what do you see going on? You see they're covering all these funny looking bumps, right? Alright, so what are these bumps called? No wrong answers to this one, make it count. Scutes, I love it. Scales, scutes, all common answers. You're absolutely correct. However, I paid a whole lot of money to go to college, and all I got in return was a funny looking piece of paper and a whole lot of big words shoved in my face. That deserves so much better than that, y'all. That one was for you, that's not funny for me. So I call them by the technical term, and that is osteoderm. So osteo means bone, derm means skin, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So under every single one of these little bumps on their backs, you're going to find a little bone. A little something like that from a much bigger alligator. They serve a couple of different purposes for the alligator. So the first and most obvious purpose, I'm going to let y'all pass this around as well. Let's start over here. So the first and most obvious purpose is, of course, body armor, right? It's going to help protect them. But a less obvious purpose of those osteoderms is for thermal regulation. So we know alligators are cold-blooded animals. They cannot control their own body temperature. They rely on heat from the sun and the environment in order to stay warm. Those osteoderms play a very big role. I know that one's a little beat up, but you can still tell they're full of teeny little holes. They're very porous. They are highly, highly vascularized. So when they're sitting out there soaking up all that sunshine, what they are also doing is charging up those osteoderms and storing heat. They can hit that cold water, pump their blood through them, and use that to stay warm. Got built-in solar panels. How cool is that? Alright, so moving along here, let's take a look at their feet. What do you see going on in between their toes? They got web feet, right? Alright, all at once, what's the web feet for?
Swimming.
Running on the mud.
The rest are all now she's teasing. So they actually hardly use their web feet to swim at all, but they do serve a very important purpose for the alligator. Oh, anywhere you find gators, you're generally in the bayou, you're in the swamp, right? You got a lot of muddy banks. Alright, we're at a stare today. Y'all seen that big alligator y'all got out here?
Yeah.
That's a big boy. What happens when an animal that size steps in a big pile of mud? That one's not a trick question. They sink. So those web feet actually act more like snowshoes or mud shoes to help distribute their weight and keep them from sinking. Now when they are in the water and they are going top speed, which is about 30 miles per hour, those feet are tucked in by their sides and they are just wiggling their way along using that extremely powerful tail. And nobody seems to understand what I mean when I say extremely powerful. So I have a story for you. My boss, Mr. Gary Sarich, he owns all the Gator Country facilities, and they also like to do road shows. So they go to special events and bring some animals with, put on a little show for the crowd. He always brings a pretty big alligator with him. And one of the things he likes to do while he's working with that animal is he likes to show his audience how they will use their tail as a weapon. Easy enough, all he's really got to do is stand behind it, little tug on the tail, and sure enough, that gator will whip its tail at Gary as hard as it can. And being the showman that he is, he'll jump over it, which gets a pretty good reaction from the crowd. When he makes it. There's one show he was doing, he had maybe a 7-foot alligator out in front of him, went through his routine, little tug on the tail, it swung, he didn't jump fast enough. The last 2 inches of that alligator's tail sliced straight through his boot and straight through his Achilles tendon. Wow. Not a good angle to approach an alligator from. They are dangerous from both sides. When you see these videos of alligators leaping out of the water, trying to grab a bird, piece of meat, whatever the case may be, not really using their feet for that either. With enough water underneath them, they can position themselves vertically, power upward, and by doing that, they're capable of getting all but about the second half of their tail out of the water, which might not look intimidating on this guy. Y'all go look at that gator out there one more time. Alright, we're going to go through a little natural history, and then I'm going to give you what I know you are all here for. Don't worry, I have updates. They are out here. A lot of people don't even realize that we have alligators in the Rio Grande Valley, but we do. There are about, most recent approximation, 7 million alligators in the U.S., about 3.5 million in Florida. That's the highest concentration. Second Birding and Nature Center, we have that big old water treatment plant right next door, pumping out fresh water constantly. You're going to see them hang out there as well. So that's where you're going to see most of them in this area. So a little background, I'm going to give my little buddy a break here. Y'all give it up for him real quick. Okay. So, alligator has not always been as prevalent as it has been, or as it is now. For a long time, these animals were absolutely decimated, largely due to overhunting, unregulated hunting, and habitat destruction. By the middle of the 20th century, they were almost nowhere to be found. So they were finally listed on the Endangered Species Act in 1967. That completely prohibited hunting and finally created basically safe zones for alligators to live in. Now, a lot of people down here, and the next thing that I'm going to tell you, to be fair, is opinion. A lot of people think that these alligators that we have down here were introduced, or they were brought in, or someone shipped them in. Find it very hard to believe. The most reliable source that I said alligators started showing up around 1970 in this area. Well, they were listed on the Endangered Species Act in 1967 and started getting the help they needed. And then they started showing up in 1970. It's almost like they were just coming back. Just an opinion. Anyway, they are a massive American success story. They rebounded remarkably well and so fast that 20 years later in 1987, earlier actually in Texas, they were finally removed from the endangered species list. Regulated hunting is still available, and they are still a protected species, but they are no longer considered endangered. So a little background on that. Alright, so let's talk about what we do. I know Chris will give you a good heads up about it, but as a gator rescue, we became a rescue in 2019 in conjunction with Gator Country with the mission of protecting alligators, of rescuing nuisance alligators, and giving them a better alternative. We talked about how high they can jump and all that earlier, right? And how much of a monster they are and that bite force, and that gets pretty intimidating, right? But you never really have to worry about something like that actually happening. And I'm going to get a little serious on it, everybody, real quick. Bear with me, and then we can have some fun with it. But this is the deal. Wild alligators do not see you as food. They do not see you as a source of food. A wild alligator wants absolutely nothing to do with a human being. Keeping in mind, again, we hunted them almost to extinction in the 20th century. They see us as predators, not prey. So if you're out there fishing, swimming, doing whatever you're doing, and you come across a wild alligator, it is going to do one of three things. Option one is going to sit as still as it possibly can and pray to God that you don't see it. Option two is going to get under the water and get out of there as fast as possible. Or option three, some of the more confident animals or ones that feel cornered actually puff their backs up out of the water. Come to the birding center, check out any of our alligators. We got them in the little tanks inside, the juke pond outside. You can see how these animals position themselves when they're in the water. Eyes, ears, nose above that water line. Everything else sits well below the surface where you can't see it. These are ambush predators. Their entire philosophy revolves around not being seen. When you see that back come out of the water, they are announcing their presence. They want you to know where they're at so you can avoid each other. If you get too close, it's going to be accompanied by a whole lot of hissing as well for good measure. I know you're all here for Miss Judith, our rescue alligator. In order to get that alligator, you had to go out there on a little kayak, which we'll talk about much more extensively here. Well, in between me and her was none other than that monster, 11, 12-foot beast of an alligator. The second we pulled up to go look, we had just come back from lunch. Ended our search for 30 minutes. We came back and he was sitting there, had just his head showing. The second we started talking, and I'm very excited, and if you can't tell, I talk pretty loud. The second he started hearing us talk, whoop, that back came out the water. Had to get in that kayak and swim straight at him to get our girl. You know what he did? He went under the water and took off. That's a big alligator, everybody. I'm not a big guy. You can laugh at that, I don't get offended. What's your excuse? No. Even though I said all talked about. If you messing with mom, mama's babies, or mama's nest, she gonna come take care of business. She ain't gonna be too happy about it. Now the other reason that might change is if that particular animal has been fed by a person before. There's one point that I try to drive home to every single person that I do one of these presentations for. I do not care how cool you think you look doing it. I don't care who you're trying to impress. Do not feed wild alligators. And if you care about your family and your friends, do not let them do it either. It is not worth it for you or anyone else involved, including the alligator. Once an alligator is fed by a person, one time, for the rest of that animal's life, they will associate people with food. Means the next time they see a person or someone's kid, they're not going to do one of those three things. Instead, they're going to go out of their way to approach that person expecting food. See why that might cause some problems, yeah? That is what we call a nuisance alligator. All of the alligators at our facility at the Birding Nature Center and Alligator Sanctuary are nuisance alligators. We are lucky enough both here, both there, and at Gator Country in Beaumont, we have nuisance programs. That way if someone reports one of these animals being a problem, getting too close to swimmers, acting like a nuisance, whatever the situation may be, they can give us a phone call. We will go out there, capture that animal, back to one of our facilities, early retirement. Gets fed like a king or queen for the rest of its life. Unfortunately, in much of the state, or in several other states, Louisiana being a very good example, thank you, they don't believe in that kind of nuisance program. They only see one way fit to deal with the problem alligator. You are not doing the alligator a favor by feeding it. Now, the other reason you don't want to do that, I've already alluded to. You are setting someone else up for failure. We're going to use a real-world example here. Sorry in advance. Who remembers what happened in Disney a couple years ago involving an alligator? If you're not up to speed, there were two parents and a 2-year-old boy walking by the water in Disney. That's supposed to be the happiest place on earth. 7-foot alligator came out of the water, grabbed that kid, pulled him in, and drowned him. And that's all they got around to telling anybody. Because that's all Disney wanted you to know. My boss sits on a board. Whenever there is an alligator attack, they do a little work with the alligators. They do a full-scale investigation. In the case of the Disney incident, we got a hold of some security footage. What you think we found? 2 employees of Disney going out every single day on their lunch breaks, feeding that alligator. Think of it like this. This gator's sitting in his pond, minding his own business, being an alligator. Sees these 2 unsuspecting parents approach the water. 2 adults approaching the water. Every other day of that animal's life, that meant feeding time. What do you think was going to happen? He came up, he did what alligators do. So for each other's sakes, do not feed the wild alligators. You go in there prepared for that situation. Sure, you'll be just fine. Next kid trying to go fishing, not going to be so lucky. If those 2 reasons are not convincing enough for you, you seriously got your own problems to sort out. But the last one usually is about your wallets. If you get caught feeding an alligator, you are in a world of trouble. Very first thing that's going to happen, you get caught tossing a gator one little bitty chicken nugget. You can get smacked with up to a $1,500 fine. Not enough for you? Per foot.
Whoa.
You get caught feeding one this size, you might be staring at about $18,000. That's an expensive chicken nugget. I don't know about you, I don't have that laying around. If you do, come talk to me. I got some college debt we can do something about. And they're not done. Let's say you fed them from a boat. You think that boat's coming home with you? That boat had to get there somehow, right? Your truck, your trailer that you used to put that boat in the water to go and feed that alligator, they're coming for that as well. There's a running joke around here, game wardens have more power than the FBI. It's barely a joke. I used to say they need a warrant. I don't say that anymore. I talked to him, 2 weeks ago? He told me anywhere the mockingbird flies, we can go.
Wow.
So if y'all get anything out of this show today, don't do what? Good deal. Alright. See, I'm pretty sure I skipped like 15 slides. Yeah, I sure did. Alright. Just to give you an idea, actually, I like this one. This was a photo I had to steal off of Facebook. It was just perfect timing. It was like a week ago. This photo was posted on Facebook with the caption, "They never knew." If you don't feed them, it's not a problem. And congrats to all of you at Estero as well. That alligator out there has clearly not been fed. Love that. Oh yeah, I skipped all kinds of stuff. Okay, what do you do if you see a problem alligator? This is what you should do. Keep your distance. Do not try and take matters into your own hand. Don't try and be a hero and go out there and save it. I get asked frequently, especially this past week, about that woman that was attacked by an alligator, last week? And they're saying, what happened to that woman? She got attacked by an alligator. No, she didn't. She had her dog off a leash. Her dog got attacked by an alligator. She tried to jump in and save the dog. I get it, we love our pets. Gator said that's a fair trade. Sorry. No. Don't try and take matters into your own hand. Contact Texas Parks and Wildlife immediately if you suspect a problem. They will deal with it and let the area know. That's the best thing you can do. Alright, so I'm going to talk about a couple of our nuisance calls. So I have a couple of photos here. These are from prior to me actually arriving at the Birding and Nature Center. This is the one I know a lot about. This was, there's a 5-foot alligator in this little hole that you see here. This was near the airport, I believe. That was that alligator's entire world.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that one was in the way, and again, obviously not in the best situation. So team went out there and saved that guy. We saved several off the golf courses over in Laguna Vista. So we get very involved in that as well. So the two biggest ones that I've done since I've been here is obviously the beach alligator. That was on South Padre Island Beach near Access 5. I like to use this as an example because this is an extremely rare situation and something we get asked about frequently, being as we do have alligators in the bay. One of the largest one of the largest differences between alligators and crocodiles is that crocodiles have salt glands. They can osmoregulate. They can extract that salt from their system. Alligators do not have that. So yes, you will see them travel through the salt water to move from one area to the next or to go look for food. They are always, always, always going to be seeking fresh water to return to. Whether that's a resaca, a stream, big old water treatment plant on the island, whatever the situation is. This was a perfect example. We had just had a very big storm come through. This alligator was caught up by the current while he was traveling somewhere and wound up on the beach. Between the first sighting and the time Texas Parks and Wildlife finally gave us the call to come and get him, it was about 48 hours of him sitting on that sandbar trying as hard as he could to get into the water and so he could swim out of there and getting badgered with these waves. It's the easiest alligator I think I've had to catch in my entire career. He was exhausted. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not. If you saw the video of us pulling out there, it looked all dramatic. He was death rolling. Video cut off at the perfect time. This is how he ended up. He did not have enough energy to turn around. So just for clarification, don't worry about alligators on beaches. You got nothing to worry about. That was a cool one. And let's talk about our girl. Alright, so I believe the first sighting on this was near Christmas time, where she was reported an alligator with her mouth taped shut. We finally got the email in early January. So we headed out there, see what we could do. I'm gonna just walk you through the whole process on this one because I know we care very passionately about her. So this is a picture that we had received. Devastating, and to be honest with you, I wish I could tell you this is the first time I've ever seen this kind of thing happen. Not even the first time, it's happened in the last year. And 2 weeks ago there was one in Florida, same situation. I'm gonna go off on a tangent, but we'll get there. So we got there around 8:30 or so. Immediately saw her. She took off and did not show her face again until about 12:30. So that was the result, and me going in this kayak, paddling around in the room, trying to find this alligator.
Raul has purchased the paddle.
I don't know, I kind of like the group. I think that's like a signature look now.
One of our staff members came in and she goes, not knowing the equipment that we have, she goes, I really
say, what's your address? I want to send you a new broom.
That's good, they use the resources that they
Hey, if
have.
you don't think we care about these animals after seeing that, I don't know what to tell you. There is always a way, and I'm going to get my gator. But yeah, so that is the situation. She finally showed her face again at about 12:30. Matter of fact, I am going to, well, I'll walk you through it. I have a couple of videos that I could not manage to get into this, but I'm going to show you the whole thing when we're finished here. So that was what was spotted. There's that big boy that was waiting for me. I know it's kind of in the corner there. He's such a beautiful alligator. I had to throw him in here. He's so cool. So initially our plan going into this, and I firmly believe this, alligators belong in the wild. If it was up to me at the Birding and Nature Center and Alligator Sanctuary, we would not have a single alligator there in captivity. They don't belong there. They make terrible pets. They belong in the wild. Let them be alligators. The unfortunate truth of this is, well, the plan going into this was we were going to come in, capture her, untape her, let her go be an alligator again. Well, I think I actually have the exact moment, and you can see how happy I am that I got her, and the realization that this was a much worse situation than we prior anticipated. So not only was she taped, but that tape, I think my estimate was, my initial was about 3 to 6 months that she was swimming around with that tape on her mouth. I think I lowballed it. I think it was probably a lot longer than that, especially having just gone through winter. On top of that, there were sores and all kinds of damage where that tape was. This is what we were looking at when we got her in, and notice how where that tape is, that cut. That's not because someone taped it as tight as they could. They taped it probably like a normal person. That was on there so long that she had time to grow with that tape on there. Alligators don't grow that fast, and they definitely don't grow fast if they're not eating. That was on there a very, very long time. So I also have a picture in here. There we go. I am actually sitting on this alligator. Like I said, our initial plan was just to let her go. So I called Texas Parks and Wildlife. They said, go ahead, do it. But once I realized there's no way she was going to survive without that tape, or if we just let her go like that, I am sitting on the back of her after having taken this entire roll of electrical tape off of her mouth, on the phone with Texas Parks and Wildlife, trying to get the control number so that we could bring her back to our sanctuary. That is her, back in her little quarantine thing. She is doing phenomenal. So she's recovered a lot. Obviously, where the sores were, you can still see this was taken actually probably the next day after she got there. So you can still see the sores, missing teeth where that was. One thing that I don't think I had mentioned anywhere before, her mouth was stuffed with wood chips.
Oh, yeah, that's what I say, it's sure.
Yeah. Sick. So we got her back there. Our biggest hurdle in her recovery was getting her to eat again, which might sound crazy, right? This alligator's been taped for that long, you'd think she'd be starving. Not really the situation. You got to think there's a lot of variables that come into play here. Not only was she in brumation still, this was early January, alligators don't eat that time of year. There's damage to her jaws that was definitely inhibiting her ability to even bite down, latch onto anything, or reposition food in her mouth to swallow. And she was just brought into captivity. That's stressful as it is. So I finally realized, you know what, if we could just line up food in there and walk away, people were the difference maker. We could not feed her. We had to leave it there and leave the room. So I finally lined up a bunch of food, walked away, and came back, and a couple were missing. I said, this isn't fair. I said, I need to see it. I can't make this announcement. I can't tell people she's eating again until I need to see it. Put a little spy camera on there, hit record, lined the food up, walked out the door. Not a second after that door closed, she came up and so she was struggling quite a bit to reposition it. She had to drop it. She was taking her back leg, constantly scratching at her face. Clearly stuff messed up about it. Nowadays, though, she's eating like a chicken breast every other day, which is a lot for an alligator. She's doing very well, and this is actually the first time I'm going to announce this, and all of you are invited. Next Saturday at 12 o'clock, we will be taking her out of her quarantine tank and letting her into our juvenile alligator pond where she can finally be an alligator. We're very excited for that. Yes, sir?
Why did you think they put that thing for?
I wish I could have that answer for you. Trust me, I'd love to have a conversation with that person. I'd love it. But again, it's not the first time it's happened. We see some of the, you know, I've been talking about this all the time. You see the, working with animals, you see the worst of people and you see the best of people. So this was absolutely the worst of people, and a lot of people suggested got away from them, and it's just that situation. No one who knows how to handle an alligator does this to an alligator. Not that much tape, not the wood chips in the mouth, none of that. So I appreciate the optimism, but this was a sick, sick person that just gets off on treating animals this way. Which brings me to the last part of what I wanted to say. A little bit of a call to action. This was done by a sick person that clearly does not care about alligators, does not like alligators, is probably scared of these animals as well. We are all naturalists here. I think it's our mission to share love of animals even if we don't particularly, or we're not particularly fond of them. My most used saying at the Nature Center through education is, there is no such thing as a scary animal. There are scared people and animals they have not taken the time to understand. We call ourselves naturalists. It is our mission. Take the opportunity. If there is an animal that you are afraid of, that you don't like, it is our objective to change that for yourself. Educate yourselves. How can we expect someone, whoever did this to this alligator, is going to go out there and do it again unless they can change? How can we expect that person to change their mind if we can't do it ourselves? So my challenge to everyone in this room, think of an animal that you're not fond of. I don't care if it's snakes, spiders, alligators. Make yourself love them. That is my challenge for everyone here. Alright, y'all, and just to follow up, obviously I work at the South Padre Island Birding Nature Center and Alligator Sanctuary. You can see me there. We do alligator talks 11, 1:30, and 3:30 every single day. I can talk alligators all day, so if you want that opportunity, come find me there. We also do our Padre feeding shows and all of that as well. We've got a lot of cool stuff planned. You can follow us on Facebook at the South Padre Island Birding Nature Center and Alligator Sanctuary. I have mine and Kristen's emails both here for you if you're interested. If you're interested in following the Gator Country end of things, you can follow them at Gator Country, Beaumont, Texas, and Natchitoches Alligator Park. Try saying that one 3 times fast. And I think that's about all I got for you up here, y'all. This is your time. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you. Yes, ma'am?
How many eggs do they have?
How many eggs do they have? Okay, so for a mature female, typically about 40 eggs per nest, give or take. It's rare that you'll find one with, they will rarely all hatch, and the survival rate is not very high. So about 80% of baby alligators will not make it to their first birthday. There's just very few things that won't eat a baby alligator, whether it's a bigger alligator, raccoons, birds of prey, blue herons will go out and eat baby alligators. There's a viral picture going around last year of a monster largemouth bass with a gator tail sticking out of his throat. So wait until they hit about 4 foot, those tables turn. Any other questions? Yes, sir. So the reason for that, now there are 4 different types. She asked, what's the difference between an alligator and a caiman? So there are 4 different kinds of crocodilians. You have your alligators, your crocodiles, that's the one I usually get asked, your caimans, and your gharials. So alligators and caimans are most similar of that whole group. Both of them are in the alligator family, Alligatoridae. So they are kind of sister group to one another. There are only 2 species of alligators in the world, your American alligator that we have here, and your Chinese alligator that is critically endangered. I believe there's only 1 lake in China where they are naturally occurring anymore. And then caimans, you have about 6 or 7 different species, so it depends on exactly which species you're talking about. So your black caimans, for example, will get every bit as big as an alligator. But the reason that a lot of alligators get sold as caimans is because of 2 species in particular, your Schneider's dwarf caiman and your Cuvier's dwarf caiman. Top out at about 4, maybe 5 foot for a monster. They're taking these animals that potentially get 13 feet long and selling them as a little caiman that only gets 4 or 5 foot long. That's why they're doing that. They don't make good pets, none of them, not the caimans either. Just Louisiana. Yes, ma'am?
So at Brazos Bend State Park, where they have a lot of gators, I've seen people with their fishing pole in their hand, and the gator sees that, and they just come swimming right up because they know somebody's going to be fishing. Got any recommendation for that?
Very likely, those are alligators that have been fed. They're just feeding them when you're not looking. It's an unfortunate truth of the matter. A lot of it is incidental feeding as well. We can use Padre as an example over at our center. He was caught near Port Arthur, right next to a cleaning station. Fishermen were coming in every day, cleaning their catch, shoveling food into his mouth. Well, the fishing slowed down. Guess who had a problem with that? One day some guy pulls his boat into the slit, feels a big old bump, Padre's climbing on the back of his boat. Best thing you can do with that is keep your signs up, keep things posted, let people know about it, and if you're seriously concerned or they're getting too much, and especially if you see someone actively feeding them, contact Texas Parks and Wildlife immediately. Try and record them and get that number on that boat as well. You don't get to, I mean, you gotta set an example at some point, right? Too many of these people are getting away with it. Yes, sir?
Hey, how'd y'all decide on Judith for the...
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. Shame on me. Okay, so Judith was named after Miss Judith Hoyman, I believe, who was a driving force behind the American Disabilities Act, consistently muzzled. That name was chosen by Miss Dina, who was one of the first to spot her and take a photograph of her that went out there as well. So, driving force behind the American Disabilities Act, and constantly hush-hushed. Well, I think that was a perfectly fitting name for our girl there. I would have loved, and in my heart, I really wanted to bring her out here and show you all her. This is chicken, by the way. Unfortunately, there's rules and regulations regarding presenting alligators to the public, and especially with a 4-foot alligator like her, one of the things that has to happen is she has to have her jaw secured. There is no force on earth or heaven that can get me to put tape on that alligator's mouth. I'm sure y'all understand. Any other questions? Whoa! Yeah.
So she probably was not ever fed then by a human?
Not likely. Which again is why I said when we first got on the scene, our plan was to capture her, untape her, and let her go, let her do her thing. But once we realized how extensive all the damage that had been done to her was, we knew she was not going to survive out there in the wild, especially not with those bigger alligators. A struggling alligator is just a free meal sign waving in the air to a big alligator. So we knew we were going to have to bring her back. And yeah, the unfortunate truth of the matter is she has to stay with us. She'll be in captivity the rest of her life. I hate that just as much as every single one of you does. She has every right to go be an alligator, but someone had to step in. That's why we do what we do. The alternative for those animals is getting put down. So we give them a second opportunity. Yes, sir.
You see here in Texas a lot of alligator boats being sold. Why did that happen?
Yeah, so again, there is a hunting season. I don't hunt alligators, so I'm not super familiar with it. But most of that, the hide for the boots, the meat that you get in the restaurants, things like that, those come from alligator farms. So those are facilities that are specifically for the purpose of raising animals for the meat and the hide, mainly for the boot industry, things like that. I'm not a huge fan of those facilities for a number of reasons. One being an alligator's growth is completely determined by food and temperature. It has nothing to do with their age. So by overfeeding them and overheating them in environmental chambers, they get them to grow faster, and that's how they keep up with the demand for it all. I think that's a little sick, but that's what it is. But yeah, it comes from alligator farms. Yes, ma'am.
So the nuisance alligators that you capture, how long can an alligator, a normal alligator, live, and then how long do the nuisance alligators live, and do you end up with a huge amount of alligators to take care of?
Yes. So your typical wild alligator, 45 to 65 years old, is a pretty old alligator. They can definitely live longer than that. Captivity does them wonders. The oldest alligator owned by Gator Country is Big Al over in Beaumont, Texas. He turned 91 this year.
Wow.
The oldest alligator ever recorded, as far as I know, is still alive in St. Augustine, Florida. He turned 116 this year.
Wow.
They live a very long time.
And how
And yes,
do you
and
tell the age of an alligator?
yeah, to answer the second half of your question, yes, we have an absurd amount of alligators, and again, people continue to feed them, and we need to continue to keep stepping in, and it is becoming a serious problem for us. Over at Gator Country Beaumont, we have close to 700 alligators in that park, just from that nuisance program. That is why we purchased the Louisiana park, why we started this deal. It was a win-win for us. They got to keep some of their alligators down here, where we have alligators coming out of our ears. And we're not just breeding them left and right to get all these babies. They're coming from this nuisance program. So push it time and time again. Don't feed alligators.
That's why education is so important.
Absolutely, yes. That's why we do what we do. You had a question?
That's what I was gonna
Okay.
say.
Okay. Well, that's
You said you had a video you wanted
Brother Osaka with the park here
Mhm.
at our RV park around the corner there, and we have alligators that show up in our ponds over there.
Yeah.
So, is there a way to help monitor? Do you have to put camera traps or something so we can monitor whether or not some of our residents are feeding the alligators?
That's a really great idea. To be honest with you, it's probably a lot easier than that. We get calls a lot of times for a lake with a ton of alligators in it. One of them, someone saw them feeding one alligator, and they say, how do you find that one alligator that was fed? It's real easy. Find where the alligators are, throw something in the water. Only one of them's coming towards you. They sell themselves out.
Just not a piece of food.
Right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love the camera traps because it would also mean that we catch more of these people doing it, and that's more exposure for the penalties associated with doing this, which I think gets swept under the rug a little time because everyone that does it zips out of there and gets away with it.
Yeah, we
It's
have
kinda
had them come and collect gators occasionally from our park.
Yeah.
So, if they are not hatched there, does that mean that, do they migrate from the larger ponds here over to ours?
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of babies being born. Eventually they have to spread out and move to new areas. So yeah, they do move quite a bit. That's also just a point to bring up. With our nuisance program now, if it's a wild alligator that has not been fed before, again, we let them be alligators. We'll go move them somewhere else. Another reason that you can't feed, and this just plays into your migration question, if an alligator has been fed, a lot of people say, well, why do you have to bring it in captivity and put it in a cage? Just move it somewhere, it won't be a problem. They're coming back 100% of the time. Once you feed an alligator, I say they're like husbands, cats, and kids, they ain't going anywhere. Right. So, the example I like to use, someone help me out here, that cape that's at the northeast end of Australia, the horn, cape something, I can't remember what it's called. There was a very large saltwater crocodile that was being fed on the west side of that cape. They decided to do an experiment. They put a tracking device on him, flew him 75 miles as the bird flies to the other side of that horn. Well, he hung out for 3 months and decided he'd rather be hand-fed. In the course of 3 weeks, traveled 250 miles and wound up in the exact same spot he started in. Feed them, they're not leaving.
Cape York.
Cape York, thank you. Yeah, Cape York. Awesome.
Cape York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one feeding, does that mean they're actually smart?
They're smarter than people give them credit for. So they don't have the cognitive intelligence per se like we do as humans, right? But their survival instincts are remarkable. And yeah, I think just in general, they're a lot smarter than people give them credit for. They definitely recognize people. They can absolutely learn their names. I had one that I...
They know voices.
Absolutely. I had one that I worked with extensively over in Louisiana. About a 5-foot alligator. His name was Biggie Smalls. But I go walk in there, you had about 10 other alligators in there. Go, Biggie! Justin, you come running up. You ever done the trick with the treat on the dog nose? So I'd hold a piece of meat over his head. I'd say, up, up, up. He'd sit there, open his mouth. Wait. I'd say, get it. They're cool. They're smarter than people give them credit for. Yeah.
Your nuisance gators, are they reproducing?
Not here, right? The only two that we have that are actually of breeding size are Laguna and Padre. He's got his little girlfriend in there. They built a nest the first time they were here. It was all duds, and they haven't had another one since then. We probably let them do it if they had to.
I was told that might have happened because she was in a different pond before she got here.
That's a possibility too. It was the first year. Now over in Beaumont, again, 700 alligators. You're not stopping them for breeding. So we do get some babies out of that, which helps us do our educational animals. We have something that's smaller that we can talk about and show people. People care about what things that they can put their hands on, right? But the cool thing about it is any facility that breeds alligators for any purpose, whether that's a farm, a sanctuary, or for the extinction pet industry, they are required by law to return a certain percentage of those babies back into the wild. So you are helping to sustain the native population by doing that as well.
So do you restore or transfer if you ever got babies? Would you then be required to
Yeah.
some of them into the wild?
Yes, absolutely. So the way that works is basically teletext Sparks from all how many eggs we got, they hatch, and they go straight from the egg to them. There's nothing in between. They do not get fed. They go straight into, I don't know what they do with them, to be honest with you. But they get to go be wild alligators. All right, y'all, I'm going to show you this video and then kind of let you do your things. If you have any other You can just flag me down.
I know two of us have salmonella, the alligators have, do alligators have?
Yeah, I don't hear about it as frequently, but any animal that is in the water that often is going to have that chance. This will be her full story.
I think the right best, the volume next.
With this big old remote right in front of me? Yeah. There's not a lot of sound over there, so I'll let y'all watch that.
Well, we'll see. If he's out in the middle, I don't know.
No cursing?
Right.
Point to be made here, sorry for talking over this. Normally if an alligator is uncomfortable, they're going to shake, they're going to thrash. When I was taking that tape off, if my thumb even touched where that tape was, it was not a shake, she just cringed. So that's how we knew she was in serious pain. Look at that tape. Cringing.
Did you anesthetize them at all when you started taking the tape off?
A gator rescue in Westlaco. Tonight, this little guy's doing okay, but the search for the person who left her for dead is just beginning. Good evening, and thanks for being with us at 5. I'm Rudy Diaz.
And I'm Christine Alon. There are a lot of rules and rules over how and where and how it's handled here in Texas. But rescuers say there is nothing right about what they found on this gator. Christian on Fighting is live in Westlaco, where the gator is now in recovery. Christian, what did you learn?
Christine, a lot happened since then. We're out in the back room here at the South Padre Island Birding Alligator Sanctuary. Here's the alligator recovering for now. She's back here away from the public so that she can recover. They found her with tape around her neck, a long roll of tape. It was first spotted on Christmas Eve at Grande. The next sighting came up this week. That's when the folks came over from the team that rescues the alligator. They went over, and here's another look at that tape. The next bit of video we want to show you how much tape there was. This is Jake Reinbold. He's unfurling that tape, removing it from that 4-foot female alligator. They discovered nearly an entire roll of electrical tape tied around its mouth. An emaciated gator with sores, missing teeth, so much that the jaws were deformed when we first saw it, based on where that tape was. The man who recovered the gator, Jake Reinbold, he's an educator here at the center, paddled out to the gator, out on Alligator Lake there at the Center Grande State Park, getting over to that struggling gator, even getting past the large gator that was out there in the water. I'm here with Jake Grande. Jake, I just wanted to ask you, in order to get her out of the water, how far out did you have to go? What did you have to do? And then what did you notice when you saw her?
Yeah, so I had to go about maybe 40 yards out there to get her. It was a little intimidating at first. We had just seen about an 11-foot alligator. So cruising through there, again, wild alligators don't want anything to do, so just power through there. You gotta risk it for the biscuits sometimes, so went out there, looked her on the line, got her close to the boat, pulled her in, immediately noticed how emaciated she was. And you could see when the tape was on her mouth how it was misforming her jaws around that. So,
Yeah, we saw some of those photos.
yes, sir. So I knew immediately something was wrong and she was going to need a lot of help.
And you told me your estimate as far as how long you think the tape is on the alligator's mouth. What's your estimate?
I gather 3 to 6 months at least, just because there was signs of growth and the fact that her skull is deformed underneath that tape. It's been on there long enough for her to grow since it was initially put on.
And that's really amazing because you were telling me that alligators, they can spend a long time without that's what helped her survive.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're unbelievably resilient animals, the ability to overcome so much, which is a sad thing too, because it's not, when it comes to alligators, when they're in these situations, it's not like a week of struggle. She could have potentially lived another year after, or with that tape on, so we're glad that we got her when we did.
Really wild. Well, we're checking with the game wardens on this. We just spoke to them. They told us that right now they're launching a preliminary investigation to determine if a crime was committed. That would be a step before actually doing a criminal investigation into what happened with this alligator. We'll keep you posted on what happens with this case. Reporting live, South Padre Island, Chris Carson, Channel 5 News.
That's it for me.
There is a QR code with a donate on the back of your rack card if you want to take those with you or pass them along to someone else. Of course, we're a nonprofit. We do appreciate all donations and thank you for your support. And again, next